Good morning, Kurt Rant, field operations for the Whisky complex, and that includes Whisky Fire, Sandstone, and Blister Creek. I'm going to change it up today, start over here in Sandstone. Nothing really new going on in Sandstone, but still monitoring the Blister Creek fire and the entire Sandstone with both divisions. We did not observe any smokes yesterday in the fire. We did get up in the air and fly it. Didn't see anything. So in Delta, real quickly, still working on doing some road repair down here with excavators on the 7015 road down here, kind of as you get towards that Bagby Hot Springs. As you guys, if you're locals, you might know where that's at. And then other than that, just kind of monitoring this, making sure nothing surprises us here with still the warm and the dry weather we have. And then over in Division Yankee, kind of the same deal. They're working along with the excavator like we talked about in the 6320 and the 63 road system in there, and they're going to work on a little bit of a dozer line repair in there too once they tie in with that today. And then additionally, the crews in here being patient, just kind of waiting for something to happen. And while we do that, we try to do some training, and so we'll be doing some training with those crews out there like I mentioned yesterday or the day before, getting them kind of introduced and a little bit of experience working with the medical resources like those REMS teams, those extraction teams. We'll move over to Whisky Fire here. And so we did have a change in the perimeter yesterday. As you guys, if you live locally, you probably saw the smoke coming over the hill, and we had that easterly flow yesterday, which means that we still had a light easterly influence to the wind. So what that did is that pushed the smoke kind of from the southeast over. So if you were down in the river corridor there in the Columbia, you could see that smoke coming over the ridge. So what happened is early yesterday morning, as far as we can tell, there was a small little heat signature from the IR from the night before, and that crossed and pretty quickly made some runs up this slope here to the ridge, spotted over, and filled in here. So this is our best estimate of what the perimeter looks like right now. So from here to the west, that's all additional growth in the last 24, 36 hours. And we got in the air in a helicopter with 4 different times yesterday with different folks just to get up here and to have a look and see what this was doing, what the potential was for it to move to the west, to the south, to the north. And I went up in the morning, I went up last evening and looked at it. Most of the growth that happened was in the morning, not a lot of additional growth throughout the day. Sometimes that happens with these fires around here. You get that dry air and that easterly influence, and that tends to be maybe when you get most of your activity. The Eagle Creek fire, everything from Cascade Locks essentially to the west when that burned was all an overnight event. So that's a lot of that happened overnight. What is going on currently with this, and apologies for the maps kind of cut off here, that'll change tomorrow. But it moved up close to the Benson Plateau. If you're local, you know it's a big flat up there, big continuous kind of higher elevation forest. Did not make it to the flat yesterday when I flew it yesterday evening. We're going to fly it this morning when the helicopters are ready to go, assuming from a visibility perspective we can see it, and look and see what it's doing. From what we can tell overnight from the IR that we did get, or from the heat signatures, it didn't really move that much. Maybe a little bit here and maybe a little bit up towards the flats, but it's not showing any indication that it's on the flats. When I flew in here yesterday, so this little line here, if you can see this, is the old Eagle Creek fire scar. So of course I know there's a lot of concern that this is going to march quickly through the fire scar. That's not what we observed yesterday when it actually got to the fire scar. The fire scar is not going to stop it, but it's going to slow it down because there's not as much continuous fuel down there for the fire to move through. That said, those snags are starting to fall from the fire scar, and that's going to provide continuous fuel. It's just going to slow itself down through there. So no rapid growth in the fire scar. Really what this was that did this, it finally got across this drainage, which didn't surprise us. This fire wasn't out, and then made slope runs up here. It's extremely steep up there. So really it just kind of moved up rapidly. And interestingly, it did not do a lot of like crowning. It did a lot of surface fire run, and then it took a couple little stringers of trees out with the crown fire. That's what I observed yesterday. And I wasn't not surprised. You know, all it takes is really steep slopes, and it'll move rapidly through the surface fuels. Not to say that it doesn't have the potential to do that, but we'll probably see some lessening of that fire behavior here in the next few days as it cools off and moistens up a little bit. Okay, so I'll leave it there. We did have some little bit of increased activity up in here too yesterday, and this is looking all good where it's been hung up against the fire scar. That still looks pretty much out as far as we can tell. And then this isn't really much of a concern because it's just going to wrap itself back up into the fire. Moving around into here, you know, most of the activity we've been talking about in the last few days has been up here in the bowl. Interestingly, that activity was actually moderated yesterday, and while this was active, this was actually quite moderate. So no real growth in here, just some smokes in here. And again, this is our primary line, so we're keeping a close eye on this with our lookout, you know, both in here and in here, in case this starts to act up a little bit and we need to take action with helicopters. Moving around to what the guys on the ground are doing out here. Division Gulf really pretty much wrapped up and pulling that hose. We're done with that. So they're out here monitoring this line like we've been doing for a long time, making sure nothing surprises us there. And if they come up with any more like little rehabilitation things, the crews will get at that. Moving down here into Division Tango, same thing. They're largely wrapped up with the rehabilitation work that they can do right now, and while still maintaining this as our control line. And so they'll be hanging tight in there, just observing and keeping an eye out from this lookout out here in Tom Lake. Out here in the repair group, we have a couple missions going on. We're continuing to improve the road out here on the 2810 in the south, and we've started in, for folks that are recreators out here, we started in on the, it's off the map, but there's some dozer line that was reopened from the Eagle Creek fire, and we're repairing that with an excavator out there with our repair group, with the intent of working with the county closely and eventually opening those bike trails here. I can't tell you when, but that's the intent behind that work, however long that takes, and then look at opening some of that county land in the future. As far as that go, I think that's largely the missions for the day. We will be getting back up with some recon missions today, at least a couple, and that will, what we see out here will dictate how many recon missions we do. As far as the weather goes, interesting weather pattern going on. It's still warm and dry. We're still getting kind of a dry flow up there in the fires right now, but it's also, as you might be able to tell if you're local, we got some cloud cover. We're anticipating that cloud cover to last all day, and for it to actually moisten up a little bit through the day, potentially even showers this afternoon. And then throughout the next few days and the next week, we do anticipate it to cool off considerably from what it's been the last couple days and continue to moisten up with potentially some rain by midweek. So that's where we're at. Thank you.